Hello guys, it's Steven here back with another video, and it's the day before Manchester City play their first big challenging game of the season, with all due respect to West Ham of course. We've got Spurs at home at the Esteemed, and I can't wait for the game tomorrow. I'm going to be there, so if you see me, say hello of course. But I want to say thank you before I go too far to OneFootball, who continue to sponsor this channel, who continue to be absolutely awesome, a genuinely fantastic app. So go and download it in the link in the description for all your Manchester City news. It's where I got the kind of news about Sarni's operation today, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I got a notification through my phone about that, and loads more, so go check it out in the link in the description below. It's free, it's brilliant. What more do you want than that? But today I'm going to talk about Manchester City. There's loads to talk about this game. It's going to be fascinating to see how Guardiola lines up. It's going to be fascinating to see how ready we are. I do always hate games at this stage of the season because there's no precedent in terms of forms. You never know quite how well prepared teams are. I guess it works both ways though for both Spurs and Manchester City, but I'm going to try and give a little bit of prediction, talk about it logically and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to start as ever with the overview and talk about what Pep's been talking about in his press conference and all that kind of thing. Firstly, he was very, very complimentary about Spurs. He said Spurs last season were the second best team in Europe. I mean, technically, I guess in the Champions League, he was right, even if he was being a little bit kind of kind there. I don't think anyone really thinks they're the second best team in Europe overall, but they kind of definitely earned that second spot in the Champions League, so it's a fair shout in general. And he said, since I came to England, they've always been a real contender. Always they were tough games. And after that, he went on to big up the general quality of the Premier League and how he thinks teams a lot better than people realise. I think he's probably trying to make a point there that despite City blowing teams away, this is still a tough league, you know. He pointed out how United's forwards terrorised Chelsea last week. He talked about the quality of Chelsea as well, and Spurs and Liverpool and everyone else basically. So he's right on that front. In terms of like the omens, well, in general, we do pretty well against Spurs. I know it feels like last season we didn't do well because of that horrible night, and that still hangs over all of us. The VAR cruel robbing. I mean, I guess it was technically correct, that call, but I still have flashbacks to that, and I still fear that game more than anything. It was just an awful night, even though we did actually win on the night. It's easy to forget because we went out. It feels like we lost. We actually won 4-3, and we were by far the better team on the night. We were all over Spurs, and our last 5 minutes in general, we obviously beat them after that as well in the league. Phil Foden scoring the only goal, only 3 days later. The game before the 4-3, obviously we lost 1-0, but it's worth adding that we did actually rest a few players there. So we did kind of almost concede that game by default. And I'm not going to take away from Spurs, but in general, I feel like if we played our strongest team, we probably would have won that. The 2 games before that, we actually won as well in the league. We beat Spurs 1-0 away from home, and even before that, back in April last year, we beat Spurs 3-1. So we've won 4 out of the last 5 games against Spurs. In general, we tend to do pretty well against them. So the omens are largely in our favour if we do turn up. Fingers crossed. In terms of the team news, Fernandinho is back. He's probably going to be in the squad. He could even be in the team. Who knows? We'll get onto that in a bit. But largely, and we've got a really kind of fit and healthy squad. Everyone else is genuinely fine. Pep did also talk about Mendy a little bit. He said, what I want from Mendy is for him to be fit, to be available for training sessions every single week. He said almost 2 years out now, and he needs to play. The first target is to be fit rather than to play. So I think what we'll see with Mendy is that when he comes back, he won't be back into the team until he's proven that his body isn't just going to break down. And fingers crossed for Mendy's sake and everyone else's sake that he does have a month of solid training, gets back into shape, gets up to speed, because we all know what a devastating player he can be when he's fit and firing, basically. This is his last season, I think, to really prove himself in Manchester City. Fingers crossed. Also, there's a bit of a weird one today. Sane, some news broke about him having surgery. He's actually gone and had surgery with not Kugat. He's actually rejected Kugat, which is a massive thing to do, and gone with a German national team doctor who also does a lot of operations for Bayern Munich. You know, make of that what you will. I don't think it's a very good sign at all, and I think it's another sign that his head is absolutely elsewhere. People will say, well, it's because you're getting fit for the Euros, but you know, if in general, it shows a lack of faith in City's procedures and that kind of stuff. And given the fact that everyone goes to Kugat when Pep's there, and given the fact that Bayern also used this guy and he's a lot closer to Munich and all this kind of stuff, and given all the talk, it just seems too convenient and too much of a big thing for people to ignore it. It shows, in my opinion, that his head's elsewhere. But let's worry about that a little bit later and go on to the lineup for this game. Now, I think it could be surprising. I think there's loads of ways. I might just try and name 2 teams that it could be, because it could go absolutely any way, this one. It's obviously going to be Ederson in goal. I've been debating whether it's going to be a 4-3-3 or something like a wing-back situation, because it could be absolutely either. But I'm going to just stick with a more traditional lineup for now. I think it's going to be Kyle Walker at right back, because I think he should be him, not Cancelo, because Walker was absolutely excellent against Spurs last season. He's been in good form recently as well. It's very much his game, so fingers crossed he starts in this one and proves how good he can actually be overall. And then I think it'll be Stones and Laporte carrying on their defensive partnership with, I think it'll probably be Zinchenko once again at left back. It makes sense in every single shape. It's in midfield where it gets a little bit more confusing, because we've got Fernandinho back. I mean, I'm going to do this lineup, and then I'm going to do a secondary lineup, which could include Fernandinho. I think Rodri will probably start this game, and I think we'll still see De Bruyne and David Silva ahead of them. Then I think we might just essentially see what we saw the other day. I mean, I know that means no Bernardo Silva, but you know, Mahrez was fantastic, and he was fantastic, and he deserves a slot in this game. And I think in general it would be a shame for Mahrez not to play this game, given how good he was. And I'm going to put Sterling on the left and Gabriel Jesus through the middle. I think he'll carry on there. Now this is the alternate lineup, and I've been toying with this in my head a little bit. This is like a 3-5-2 kind of thing. We could see him go absolutely crazy and play obviously Ederson in goal, of course, and then Laporte, Stones, Fernandinho in the middle as an extra centre back there. Then right wing back it could be, or it could even be Walker for what it's worth, as one of the defenders as well. But I'm going to put those three there. It could be Cancelo bursting forward, or Walker, of course. And then it could be even Angelino or Zinchenko at left wing back, with Man City then like having Rodri ahead of Fernandinho, alongside obviously like Bernardo maybe, and De Bruyne with David Silva. I can't see him not starting. It's very confusing, very difficult this. But then with maybe two up front, maybe Bernardo would play off the striker as a second striker, but it could be Sterling off Jesus or Guerrero. It's just so confusing, isn't it? I don't know how it's going to turn out. There's loads of options, but I've got a feeling we're going to see some surprises in this. Let me know in the comments below what you make of it. For now, though, we're going to go to the opposition view. I've got Flav from the Fighting Cock podcast, the Spurs podcast. It's really good. I'll put a link in the description below. He's going to offer some thoughts for this game. Over to Flav.
Hi, Flav from the Fighting Cock podcast, and obviously a massive game this week. It's the game that, if all fans are being honest, they kind of look forward to the least. I think Liverpool away, Man City away are the two hardest games in the league this season, especially a team like Spurs, who really needs to be looking at picking up points in every single game. The Etihad is a little bit of a daunting prospect. You've got all of the players. You've got probably the best manager in Europe and the deepest squad in Europe. But last season we did have some success. I think all of the people that are watching this might remember the quarter-final of the Champions League, where Tottenham, over two legs, triumphed over Manchester City, albeit with a bit of luck. I think the difference this season, though, is that we might not need luck, because we've added to our squad with quality, especially in that midfield. I think one of Man City's greatest attributes, certainly off the ball, is their willingness to close and press in such an aggressive way that it makes it very difficult for players that it isn't natural in their game to carry the ball and wind out of high press situations. But we have two midfielders, three actually midfielders, who can do it relatively easily. In most cases, against Man City, it's never going to be easy. Obviously, Harry Winks, it's a part of his game. He's good at it. He's comfortable with the ball at his feet, and he can play out in that high pressing midfield. But Dombele, our new signing from Lyon, record signing, 63 million euros, something like that. It's his natural game to get that ball and use his dribbling ability to break the press and create space. And if Spurs can get anything out of this game, it's in midfield with Winks and Dombele. And if we play at the top of our game, we can get something out of this one. My prediction is 2-1 Tottenham Hotspur. Cheers.
Flav is right that Spurs have got some players that now can actually handle Manchester City's press. It's going to be really interesting to see how they basically come at us. They weren't that impressive against Aston Villa, but this is a very different Spurs team in terms of they'll obviously be more motivated for this game, given last season as well. Given the narrative now, there is obviously a little bit of kind of needle and tension between the two teams because of how last season ended. So in general, I'm not going to count their Aston Villa form because I think they'll raise their game a little bit. Thankfully, though, our chief tormentor, Son, he's not going to be available. He's still suspended, which is huge news because he terrified us last season in the Champions League. Dele Alli's out as well, and Ryan Sessegnon continues to be out. And I think there are still some slight weak spots. I think the fullback, Danny Rose, isn't what he used to be, and Kyle Walker-Peters is still pretty naive and quite young in that, and I think he's someone we could maybe get at potentially. But they have got obviously a strong, energetic midfield. I think Winks will probably play, and then Sissoko and Ndombele. Like Ndombele, we all really like. I thought he was fantastic against Manchester City last season. Then we've got obviously Harry Kane and Lucas Moura and a lot of Christian Eriksen, players that can do loads of damage. I'm still feeling pretty confident. we could also see Lascelles as well, their new summer signing, who's very much capable of breaking the press. But I'm still pretty confident, and this is the bit where I go on to the prediction, because I think Manchester City, largely when we want to, when we turn up, and I think we will turn up, we usually beat Spurs. I think it could be close. I think it's going to be like a 2-1 to Manchester City or something like that. I still feel like we're going to win this one, and this is not misplaced arrogance. If it was away, I think we might be a bit more at risk of dropping some points there because, I don't know, early season rustiness. But I think at home, we should just about have enough. I think Spurs have got some good new players and whatever, but I don't think Ndombele is going to make that much of a difference on his own just yet. And I think Davinson Sanchez hasn't quite lived up to expectations. Watching him have a blinder now. But I think there are some weak spots that we can get at. And if we turn up and play as best as we can, we are going to win this. I think in general, we all tend to know about this Manchester City team, but there are loads of variables. I didn't even mention Phil Foden, he got a start last season randomly. Who could be involved? You never know. Can't see it personally given the squad depth at the moment, but you just never know. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you make of this game. How are we gonna line up? How is it gonna go? What kind of prediction are you expecting from this? So also want to say thank you to the patrons as ever. Patreon.com/Esteemed Kompany. All these names scrolling down the side of the screen. Absolute heroes. And subscribe if you're new to this channel. Go and check out the Fighting the Cock podcast and make sure you download OneFootball and all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you tomorrow after the game in a bit.